Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I think you're all here for DEVFESTYYC. If you're not and you're here for another event, then I'm sorry about that. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. My name is Greg Bennett. I founded the Google Developer Group here in Calgary with a couple of other people. And we're really, yeah, thank you. We're super happy to have you here today. This has been, honestly, a boatload of work over the last 6 or 8 months. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but I just wanted to spend a second, I want to spend some time to acknowledge the fact that we are here to open DevFest 2023 with a land acknowledgement. Land acknowledgements are a starting place for change in how the land is seen and talked about, and they're not new. The people of this land would always introduce the land to the people that came to their land, and they've been around for hundreds of years before the arrival of Europeans here in Calgary or in this area known as Mohkintis. When Indigenous peoples visited other territories, it was and still is customary to respect and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. Right now, we're gathered on Treaty 7 territory in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising of Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, and the Amskapi Piikoni First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina, Chiniki, Bearspaw, Goodstoney, and Goodstoney First Nations. Treaty 7 is also home to the Nose Hill Métis, Region 5, and the Elbow River District 6. I'd also like to acknowledge the many other Indigenous peoples that have chosen to call Calgary home. So thank you so much. Again, we live and work and play on these lands at the confluence of the Bow and the Elbow River, like I said, also known as Mohkintis. So thank you for joining us here. We don't just have people from Calgary, we have people from all over North America to join us. And we are so, so grateful that you've all made the journey here and you're spending your time with us today and over the next couple of days here. So to introduce DevFest, I think you all kind of understand it's a developer festival. And it wouldn't happen without the absolute support of many, many people. So this is the first exercise of the day. So just put your stuff down by your feet or whatever, get ready to stand up. I'm going to first ask the people that are on the Google Developer Group team to stand up. And just stay standing. And everyone wave at them. And there's probably some other people that aren't here. Okay, and I want you, if you are a speaker here at DevFest, I'd like you to stand up. Okay, and everyone wave at them, get to know your speakers. They're going to be talking to you and sharing a whole bunch of information. Okay, next I want, if you are a sponsor or a team member of a sponsor company, I want you to stand up. Thank you all for being here. Okay, so look around. This doesn't happen without the support of all these people. So please take a second to thank your team members on their badge. They'll be there. And take a second to thank your sponsors. It doesn't happen without them as well, so just put our hands together for them. And certainly our speakers, again, they're the heart of this, the heart of the content that we're going to consume and be part of. So just hands together, stay standing. All the rest of you are also supporters of DevFest, and so I want you to stand up as well. Like I said, yeah, put your stuff down and stand up. Okay, let's give a round of applause for everyone that's here. Thank you for spending your time here. And one more thing before we get going. We're here to learn about new technology that can change the lives of the people in this room and the lives of the many people that you work with. I would like it if you would spend a second, and we're going to do this for about 2 minutes. We're also here to meet the people around us. So what I need you to do is I need you to turn around and find someone that you don't know, and I'd like you to introduce yourself to them and tell them what you build for. So building for AI, cloud, web, or mobile, or if you're more interested in learning about something else related to one of the technical ecosystems, or you're more interested in learning about diversity and inclusion, share that with them. And we're going to do that for 2 minutes so that you can start off networking before we even get going. So just find someone you don't know and do that. Thank you. How am I going to get this way?
Pardon?
How am I going to get this way?
However you want.
Okay. Can we not just hold on this? Okay. All right, everybody, that's our 2-minute mark. We're going to bring it back down. Feel free to have a seat. All right, come on, let's, we have lots more time for networking. All right, thank you, everybody. I hope you had an opportunity to meet someone new. And actually, while we're there, put your hands up if you met someone you didn't know 5 minutes ago. Okay, that's pretty good. I think we did an okay job there. So yes, thank you very much. Again, I want to say thank you very much to our sponsors. We have are obviously in this beautiful, beautiful building. This is comes to us from the Calgary Public Library. We're very, very grateful for that. You've been across the street because you all have badges, so you've been in the platform innovation zone. They've been an excellent partner of ours. We're so happy to have this afternoon and this morning the folks from Battle.io to speak and share a little bit of platform engineering. We're very grateful for Neo Financial for, you probably may have seen a concept of an after party, but we're going to do a little bit more of a something at 5 or 4 o'clock, just have a few drinks and that kind of thing. Happy hour is what I meant to say. And that comes to you by Neo Financial, and they're going to be here speaking at some point as well. We're grateful for, just so many people and so many sponsors, so we're glad to have everyone here. We're going to get going here in a second, but I just wanted to start the day off right, and we're going to do a little bit of a questionnaire. So the question I have, and this might be a little bit challenging, I'll start with a hard one, and then I'll go to an easier one. And so if you're not a Googler, so Googlers don't count, and you're not a Google partner, they don't count either. But if you, so the question is does anyone know, and the first person to put their hands up is going to win something, does anyone know in the Google US West data center, which city in Oregon that is in? I knew it was a hard one, so I've been there. Okay, we're going to go with an easier one. Let's go with the current existing data center in Canada or the first data center in Canada is located in which city in Canada? We got a hand up. Montreal. In Montreal. How do you know that? Okay. There we go. So we got a Google backpack for you, and yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, the answer to the first question is it's the Dalles in Oregon. It's a small little town that's there because of the fact that the Columbia River runs through it, and obviously data centers need cooling, and what's the best way to get cooling but to run water through something, especially water that's plentiful. What's interesting is that the confluence of the Columbia River comes all the way down from Canada. And so So you're sort of in the headwaters of that river system as well. Okay, I'm just going to do something, and we're just going to throw these up, so watch your heads. Oh, there it goes. That came straight in. That one got away from me. So, okay, again, thank you, everybody. In terms of program today, this is the keynote stage. We're going to have keynotes running here all day long. I don't want you to just sit here and be only here because there's other programming running. Right at 10:30, we're going to have the KPMG stage kickoff, as well as on the second level of platform, all of the classrooms are going to be activated. You're going to be happy to know that everyone here has access to Google's Cloud Skills Boost for 2 months. And so that's a valuable thing. Make sure to take time to sign up for it. If you got your ticket in the last day, give us a little bit. We'll get your name on the list, and then you'll be able to do that. Over at East Hall, where you registered, that's where that's going to be, so you can sit down and do a lab and advance towards certification. As mentioned, of course, we have seven tracks. We've got 4 technical tracks and 3 non-technical tracks. Okay? We also have the Red Bull gaming zone, which is in where you were getting coffee this morning. We're going to have a VR sim in there today. And so you want to get involved with that. Trax VR is here. They're a local company. They build the sim here in Calgary. It's multi-reality, so if you get a chance to get in on it, I don't think everyone here today is going to get a chance, but if you get a chance, definitely take advantage of that. We have the Diversity Inclusion Zone. Sherry down here is running that. We have the Expert Zone, so if you have a question, something that you'd like to solve from a technical perspective, I'd love it if you'd come to the Expert Zone on the second floor of platform and sit down with one of the experts for half an hour and bring your questions and the things that you're working on that are challenging you from a technical perspective. Okay, we're going to have lunch at about 11:30, so that's second floor of platform. Let me think here, what else? I'm going to see if we can get the lunchtime karaoke to go, but it'll just take a little bit. I'm serious about that. Why are you guys laughing? Who here is in for karaoke? Okay, we have 10 people that can sing. That'll be perfect. That'll do it. Okay, so thank you very much. And I am pleased, very, very pleased to welcome to the stage, to open up today's festivities, Jeremy Nooner, who is Global Program Manager for Google Ecosystems. We're very, very happy to have Jeremy here, and he's going to talk about the magic of DevFest. Thank you, Jeremy.
GDG DEVFESTYYC. How's everybody doing this morning? All right, that is not me. That is my teammate Komal Sandhu. Before I tell you who I am, I want to tell you a little bit about her. She was originally supposed to come up here and do the keynote this morning, but about 9 o'clock last night, I got a phone call saying, I can't make it. Jeremy, I need you to do the keynote instead. I left her up here because she really needs some acknowledgement. She runs the entire Google Developer Group program globally, all the DevFests, about 2,000 GDG chapters, hundreds of DevFests around the world. She's been busy working behind the scenes, so she deserves a chance to be up here today, and unfortunately she's not. So let's give it up for her. Thank you. Instead, you get me. So as Greg said, my name is Jeremy. I'm a program manager at Google. I'm on the developer ecosystem team. Our team runs all the Google Developer Group programs, Google Developer Experts. Are there any Google Developer Experts in the crowd? Yeah, thank you. That's a very awesome program. We run the Accelerator program. So our job basically is to connect the best of Google to all of you all over the world. So real fast, Greg's kind of done this a little bit already. I'm going to take a little bit different tack on this. How many of you in here are not developers? Okay, quite a few, including myself. I was an English literature major in university, and somehow I'm an engineering program manager at Google. Long story, I'll tell it to you later. Welcome to the non-developers here. We need you here as well to be able to be the humans, basically, that the developers develop for, to be the designers, to be the marketing people, to be the salespeople. So thank you all for being here as well. Now to the developers. How many of you have been developers for at least 1 year? Okay, I want everybody to keep their hands up. How many of you have been developers for at least 3 years? Okay, still lots of hands. We're a pretty senior crowd. How many of you have been developers for at least 5 years? Still lots of hands. 10. I'll get to 30. Hold on. 20 years. 30 years? A couple. All right. So there's a ton of experience here in the room today, or at the festival today. As Greg has already mentioned, meet folks. I think the number one thing that Google has done in all of this is to help empower Greg and others to bring all of you together. There's a ton of expertise gathered here today. Meet folks, trade expertise, learn about who each other is. This is what makes an ecosystem. It's not just the people, it's the connections between and among you. This is a great place to strengthen the connections that you have, as well as create new connections. So why does Google do this? Why do we have these Google developer groups and these Google developer experts and incentivize folks like Greg to be able to actually throw these kinds of events? And it's really simple. We want to connect developers with each other to make better products, better stuff that enable people to do work, that empower them, and yeah, entertain them all over the world, including right here in Calgary. So that's why we exist. That's why we're doing what we're doing, and why you are but one, very important one, but one of many different groups that's come together all over the world. So we sort of think that DevFest is kind of that missing link, that there's folks in academia, there's folks in industry, there's folks who are just sort of hobbyists and trying to learn. We're all doing our thing, but providing a place for you all to come together, connect, and meet each other. So again, there's a ton of talent, there's a ton of expertise in the room today. Please take advantage of that. I'm not going to play this video because I'm not. But instead, I want to tell you how I got here today. And why, I just told you there's thousands of Google developer groups, there's hundreds of DevFests. Why did I come to this one? Google, I could have gone to any one, and I said, I want to go to Calgary. So back in May, we were at I/O Connect in Miami. Was anybody else there at I/O Connect in Miami? A few of you. And I was standing in line for coffee, and this kind of interesting looking guy, very energetic, maybe a little hyper, walked up to me and started giving me stickers and said, you gotta come to Calgary for DevFest. Of course, that wonderful, energetic, slightly hyper person was Craig Bennett. And I was like, what is going on? What is happening in Calgary that this guy is literally running around amidst this large developer conference in Miami saying, you gotta come, you gotta come, you gotta come. I was so intrigued by him, his energy, and really how he was advocating for this city, this community, this ecosystem, that I really wanted to be part of it. So Greg, thanks for the energy, thanks for having me, and I've only been here for an hour or so, and already I can start to see some of that energy, some of that enthusiasm, a lot of that innovation that makes this particular part of the developer ecosystem special. Oh, maybe I am going to play the video. Is there sound? All right, I'm not going to play the video. Remember I told you I wasn't going to play the video? All right, a little bit of context. Super excited all of you are here. This is one of about 570 DevFest events that are happening basically October, November, December all over the world. They're happening in 100 different countries and 460 different cities. So as you think about connecting with each other over the course of the next couple of days, please know that there are folks just like you all over this country, all over this continent, all over this planet who are doing exactly the same kinds of things. So there's ways to connect with them as well. So just know that you are a relatively small, incredibly mighty group of folks, and you're part of a larger whole because this developer thing that we do it all over the world, and we do it for the world. Just a little bit of bragging here. These are some events that have happened already. Again, you are one of many. DevFest Astana happened just a couple weeks ago. There's a huge DevFest in Delhi, a really big one in Melbourne. So just to give you a sense of that you are not isolated and alone in this DevFest event. So this is my question. Given what Greg sort of said today and some of the context and excitement around DevFest, how are you going to DevFest today? How are you going to take advantage of these next couple of days? You could sit in the corner and drink coffee and maybe go to a couple of different talks, and if that's your jam, go for it. But I would encourage you, again, to understand that this is a really special gathering here, and it's one of many really special gatherings that's happening all over the world. You are part of not only something bigger here in Calgary, but you're part of something bigger that's global. We are thrilled to be able to have the opportunity to bring everybody together with Greg and his team's help. So really take a minute before you walk out of here today. How are you going to take advantage of what's here for you? Not just in terms of the talks, which are going to be great. I'm about to introduce one of my Google teammates. Certainly the coffee and the happy hour and all that sort of stuff, but how are you going to take advantage of the folks who are sitting maybe right next to you to make what you're building even a little bit better? So have a fantastic day. I'm going to see all of you around. I'll be back on stage in a couple hours to talk about startups. Thanks, Greg, for having me, and you guys have a great time out there today. Really enjoy yourselves. Thanks so much. And I would love to introduce my teammate from Google, Tom. He is a customer engineer on the Google Cloud team. Tom, take it away.
Thanks so much. Just give me a second here. Able to switch over to the screen here. Just bear with me, everyone, while I switch over to the right monitor. We've got the world-leading AI technology, but still got to figure out GVC. All right, we just switch back to the extend mode there. Perfect. All right, good to go. So thanks everyone for being here today. My name is Tom Krywitsky, and I'm one of the customer engineers from Google Cloud Canada. First, how many of you know that Google actually has an office here in Calgary? Okay, so a couple of you have probably seen the sign there on 11th Avenue. We have about 20 Googlers, some on the cloud team, others in other teams on the ads team working in Calgary. And on the cloud team, we really work with lots of companies across Western Canada to help them adopt Google Cloud's technologies. So I specifically am a customer engineer, so I'd be helping different organizations adopt and use Google Cloud technology. Today, I'm going to be talking to you a bit about why Google is so hot for generative AI. And who else is here is hot for generative AI? Give it a round. Yeah, it's a really exciting topic. There's a huge amount of space and excitement in the space. And I think I first noticed this when my 16-year-old cousin showed me how they were using AI to help them solve programming assignments. And then on the same day, my sister said, I was trying to come up with a greeting card for a friend that I haven't talked in a long time, and I use this model, these language models online, if you've heard of it, to come up with an example. And it's like, for someone in tech, like that's rare, that you see something at work and you see it at home and with your family. So I just want to acknowledge that this is a really exciting moment in human history. And for you all being here in the room, getting hands-on and workshopping, it's just a fantastic way to take advantage of this trend. So at Google, we really see that AI is the next big shift in terms of technology. Going back, there's been a lot of really exciting developments over the 20th century, but the internet really changed the way that a lot of us communicate and we do business. We connected all of these devices around the world and developed whole new platforms like Google and social media. And then the switch to mobile put all these technologies in everyone's pocket and made it an accessible, ubiquitous part of everyday life. My phone is my key, and it's the way I get into my house and track memories. And it's just become an essential piece. And we see AI as being able to build on top of these technologies, all that data, all that compute, to ultimately build the next wave of innovative applications and platforms. So here at Google, we've been thinking about this moment and planning for it for a long time. Google's been developing AI ever since the first spell correction in Google search way back in the late 90s. But in 2016, we saw this moment coming and accelerating and decided to become an AI-first company. And so really kicked off some of the investments that made the generative AI revolution that we're in right now possible. So a few highlights would be like the transformer model, BERT, which was the first large language model. And you'll notice a lot of these models have kind of like silly names like BERT and Llama, and I don't know why, but it continues there. We had our Lambda model, AlphaFold, and now the PaLM models. So this acceleration of investment and innovation ultimately leading to where we are today. Now, I thought I would hone in a little bit on the transformer. Has anyone heard of a GPT type of model? I'm sure you have. Come on, everyone. So the T in GPT stands for transformer. And this was actually developed at Google back in 2017 by a pair of research scientists. And you're probably thinking at this stage, what is the connection between the transformer and aliens? And so I'm going to tell you because it's just a cool story. So if you've seen the movie Arrival, which came out in 2016, it's by Denis Villeneuve. It's a really interesting movie. But in the movie, aliens come down to Earth. And of course, everyone freaks out and gets the nukes ready. And we're going to have to defend the Earth. But they don't do anything. And so the main character, Amy, she is a linguist who is tasked with trying to communicate with these aliens and kind of starting from scratch, right? We don't know what language they speak. And so throughout the movie, they go back and forth. She tries to figure out and make progress in fits and starts. But anyway, spoiler alert, the big reveal at the end is that the aliens don't communicate words sequentially, like I am doing right now, but they actually communicate fully in time. So the aliens experience all words all at the same time, every conversation they've had with her. And it's kind of a trippy concept to think about. But to these two Google researchers, they saw this immediate parallel and had a light bulb moment because language models prior to the transformer also looked at words sequentially. And so if you're trying to translate from English to French, they had this really bad habit of forgetting the beginning of the sentence by the time they got to the end of the sentence and just didn't really scale up. And so what they said with the transformer is, well, like the aliens in Arrival, can we just look at all of the different words all at the same time, use that to build the appropriate context, and then from there, translate directly into the other piece. And so they wrote a paper called Attention is All You Need, which is a really great paper if you're interested in kind of the foundations here. And what that allowed us to do is apply machine learning over much larger data sets with a lot of the context that we need to make these translation models more accurate. And the cool thing about the transformer is that it was incredibly scalable compared to the prior models. So you could go from a model that has 100,000 parameters or maybe 1 million to ones with billions or trillions of parameters. And with that huge scale of models becomes a whole host of different emergent abilities. So because these models are trained on such vast data sets, they can remix and create new content, new text, new images, even music. They can synthesize vast volumes of data into a summary or an extract in a really easy and relatable way. So it allows us to automate a lot of things that just weren't possible a couple of years ago. And because they're fundamentally modeled on human language, in the case of large language models, they can allow us to interact with users and each other in a much more relatable and natural way. So just a quick example of what you can do with generative AI. We're seeing a lot of interest from a lot of companies, as well as developers, and looking for areas to get started. So we kind of see it breaking down into these 4 main areas. Ones that are more about the way that your application or you would face the world, ones that are more internal facing, ones that are more visual, and then ones more about writing. So visual and customer facing, this is great for UI, UX design, advertising and marketing content creation, and I'll give an example of that in just a minute. If you're looking at something that's more external and about writing, the areas of chatbots and support is a really great area to get started, and a lot of the companies we work with are going down this route. For the visual and internal, this is all about presentations and prototyping. If you're trying to brainstorm a new design or a new image, you can do that now with a generative model. And then finally, one of the cool ones is just knowledge management. I think, as a developer or as a user of technology, you're being constantly bombarded with huge amounts of information, new products, new documentation. Being able to filter through that, filter through your code base and kind of find the pieces you need is also a really good example. And especially with big, multi-billion-dollar companies who have tons of internal documents, this is a really important way to summarize their knowledge and make it accessible to everyone across the organization. So I'm going to give just one example. I'll be at the Experts Lounge later today, and we can kind of get an overview of a couple more examples, but I found this one kind of interesting. So with a lot of companies, if you're trying to go to market, you need to have some kind of marketing or advertising and branding strategy, but in the age of like TikTok and connected social media, like constantly firing over at you, it can be really hard to filter through the noise as a consumer and figure out like what is a brand that works for me, one that's going to resonate with me. So personalizing your messaging at scale is something that's really hard, but AI, we think, is one of the ways that it can unlock this ability. So I'm going to just start off with one model, which would be a text-to-image model. And imagine if I was trying to generate a picture of, a corgi riding a bike in Times Square, wearing sunglasses and a beach hat. Like, this would be fundamentally irresponsible to do, fundamentally difficult to do. Like, I have a golden retriever, and I've tried to put her in like a silly hat, and you always get the kind of like head shake. Just like it would be impossible. But with a large language model, I can generate that in a click, right, in seconds. And so imagine if I was working at a marketing company that sells like handbags, as an example, and I have a picture of it. What I can actually do is upload that into a cloud environment. I can fine-tune an image model on it so it knows what this bag looks like. I can press generate, and then put in a couple of prompts for different locales I want to see this bag in around the world. So maybe in an urban environment, or on a beach, or wherever you think that end user is going to be. From there, I can easily use another AI model to scale it up, make it look good if it's printed, make it look good on a website, and then make all of the marketing copy for Instagram or TikTok or social media or emails alongside, just with a couple of prompts that go into a model. It'll automatically generate that all for me. In terms of making this an automated process, I could combine it with information about my specific customers and tell the model, based on what you know of these customers and what you know of the product, generate me a catchy advertising tagline, scale that out across, and then fire this out as part of a campaign to all my different platforms, all my different users. So the use case here is pretty cool, but just think about the time that this would save versus doing a location shoot and coming up with the individual campaigns. We can iterate so much faster with this technology and try more markets, more examples, and really test what's resonating. And so I think adopting that kind of advertising cycle and short feedback loop would be a huge boost to this company. And we have customers that are doing this right now today. And that's just one example of many. So there's going to be a lot of great sessions today on AI. There's a one later on the specifics of Vertex and some of the other developer tools. I'm on the cloud enterprise team, so I'm going to start with just an overview of some of the AI models and tools available on the enterprise side. Then I'll talk about some of the developer tools that you could jump into really quickly, and then finish off with a really important topic, which is responsible AI. So in the enterprise context, there's really two main ways that you'd interact with our AI tools. If you're more of a builder, you would be going into our Vertex AI platform. It's an end-to-end ML platform that has everything you need to use both generative models and traditional machine learning models. And then if you're more of a user of different technologies, Duet AI would be the one that would help you out. So first on the kind of user-based one, Duet AI is taking the power of language models and image generation models and baking it into Google Workspace. So I sometimes joke, like at Google, I've got a cool, data and AI, like technical expert, cool sounding job name, but like what I really do is make presentation slides and like write emails, like so many of us do as part of our day, just part of that like work you have to do working in the modern era. So Duet AI can help you come up with a draft for an email, or get brainstorming for what you want your presentation to look like, or even help organize a spreadsheet and come up with a table for a, maybe you're trying to release a new product and come up with all the stages in a table. It can do stuff like that, and there's a whole host of new features that are coming in Workspace as well. One I'm really looking forward to, and they talked about this at Next, and I haven't seen it yet, is the ability to get Duet AI to attend a meeting in your place, which for anyone who's been in tricky meetings before, that would be pretty amazing. But I do worry about where everyone sends their bot to a meeting and they're all just talking to each other. Well, what did he say you talk about? I'm like, well, I don't know what you talk about. So a bit of a risk there. That's probably why we haven't seen it yet. But all these features just give you little productivity boosts over the day. A little bit easier to write the email, a little bit easier to get my presentation deck going, just makes your work that much more productive. For those of you who are in Google Cloud, there's also Duet AI for Google Cloud as well, which you can kind of think of as this little assistant that lives alongside you in the cloud. It can help you understand documentation, understand Cloud Console commands. I forget those all the time. You can just ask Duet, it'll generate it for you. Even do things like write Terraform scripts for you if you're trying to automate the rollout of an application or service. So all these little things just come together to make your developer experience and work experience easier. Okay, so moving over to more of the builders. And just maybe a show of hands, who here has built with AI in a cloud platform before? Okay, so a good chunk, maybe half of the room. We really see that generative AI requires a new tech stack, one that you maybe haven't been familiar before, and it kind of breaks down into these 4 areas. So I'll talk about them just a bit at a high level, and like I said, there's more sessions to talk about them in depth. So first of all, foundation models. These are a kind of a paradigm shift in the way we think about solving a lot of problems with AI. Prior to working at Google, I actually worked as a machine learning consultant and worked for a bunch of different companies, but one of them was an auto lending company that was building a platform to connect auto lenders with people looking to buy cars and then to dealerships. And I was specifically training a sentiment analysis classifier that would look at the interactions between the finance people and the dealers and kind of score them and say, these are ones who are doing really well, these are customers who are having a positive or negative experience. But I had to curate the data set all myself. I had to train the algorithm. I had to rinse and repeat. And I just found that there was always some edge case that was outside of my training set that the model just performed terribly at. One funny example was I found it could not figure out sarcasm. Because you'd have people buying a car, and it's like, oh, what great, a 27% interest loan on a 1993 Toyota Tercel. Wow. They were incredible. And my model would look and be like, well, it said incredible, so good, +1, positive sentiment. and so I had to be constantly tuning my data set. With the foundation model, it's different. You pre-train on an enormous volume of text, internet scale, giant data sets. They've seen examples of sarcasm. There's examples of all these tasks in that data set. And then you would put in a prompt and say, here's some text. I want you to assign a sentiment score. And because it has that big background, it just works. And it would have saved me so much time. So Google has trained a number of these foundation models in a bunch of areas. PaLM 2, which you'll hear about more today, is our text-based language model. It's good for text and also for chats. There's Imagen or Imagine, It's a text-to-image model, and you saw an example with the corgi. We have Chirp, which offers like really compelling speech-to-text and text-to-speech. Cody is all about code, so being able to do, generate new code based on your code base, or automatically write unit tests or documentation. Like, it's just really good in that space. And then embeddings are a way for you to take image and text content and allow you to really quickly search through it. So all of these models are in general availability. They're all getting updated constantly. And you can go in and start using them today within Vertex. Going alongside with that, Google has always been a huge believer in open source. And so we've incorporated a number of different open source models into our platform as well. So if you've heard of Facebook's Llama 2 models or Code Llama, Anthropic's Claude models, they're all better or worse at different things. They're available within our platform as well, and you can just plug them in and start using them. So we've built a GenAI studio plus what we're calling a model garden, which is like a central holding place for all these models where you can jump into a notebook, jump into the UI, start putting in prompts, start trying them out, and it's all really fast and accessible, and kind of abstracts away some of the infrastructure work you'd have to do to stand up a really big model like this. So that's foundation models. The second piece is augmentation. For anyone who's worked with a foundation model, you'll know that they're okay out of the box, but I kind of think of them like an eager high school student, like on their first day of work. They can do a lot of stuff, they have a lot of background knowledge, but it's not until they start interacting with the business or interacting with your specific systems that they truly become valuable and useful. And so grounding extensions and tuning are a way to extend the capabilities of these models to make them truly useful for your specific use case, whatever it may be. So grounding will force the model to output something that is coming from source material. Large language models can sometimes have a tendency to generate something that sounds likely. It sounds good, but it's not necessarily completely accurate. Grounding says basically, show your work. Where did you get this from? Extensions are what allow you to connect these large language models to the broader world. So allowing you to connect to APIs or to other transactional systems or backends to pull in data and incorporate it into the thought process or the response of the large language model. And then finally, tuning. You can start with a really good prompt, but sometimes to get really good performance, you need a bit more than that. And so we have a whole range of tuning options, from training the entire language model, which is going to be expensive and big, but you can do things in the middle, like providing maybe 50 examples of what you're trying to get the model to do, and then creating like a fine-tuning layer on top that will translate your task into something the language model can really easily understand. And that's a pretty cheap and easy way of really boosting your performance. Tying together all of these foundation models and some of the augmentation pieces to get that perfect use case can be a bit of a challenge. And so at Google, we've been tracking all the different use cases that people have been doing and trying to get some themes out of them. And one of the big themes we saw in that vein of knowledge management is just having really good search. And it's amazing how many companies or how many websites, like the search just isn't very good. Even today, like I'll go to some customers and companies' websites I use all the time, and it's like, that is okay, but it could be better. And so taking Google search and these LLMs, we actually wrap that all up into a product called Vertex AI Search that allows you to point it at a repository of documents or a website or whatever. The LLM and language models will make a summary, and then you can just start searching it, and it will use the grounding to say, okay, here's the search result, and give citations, like here's where I got my search from. So just a really easy way to plug it into your website and get started right away. And then for the chatbot piece, you could build a bunch of prompts yourself and put it on top of Vertex POM, but the Vertex AI Conversation allows you to specify like a playbook for how you want your chatbot to actually interact, and then it will use the language models and coordinate it so it can have a really natural conversation as part of anything you'd want a chatbot to do. So customer service or someone that you dial into in a call center. So that's a really exciting area as well. And then finally, just the platform and infrastructure. Greg talked a little bit about the vast data centers and networks that Google has around the world. We've been building these out at a rapid pace to meet this need for generative AI. And I've been building the frameworks on top of that, like TensorFlow, that allow you to interact with it. I won't go too deep on the hardware, but just wanted to highlight, we just launched our 5th version of the Google Cloud TPU, or Tensor Processing Unit. And that chip can do 393 teraflops of performance, which is 393 trillion floating point calculations per second. And big numbers are hard, so I'll put that in context. If I took someone in the room, like maybe myself, and I did one matrix or math multiplication per second, which I can't do. It's been a long time since I was doing a lot of math. But one per second, it would take me 12 million years to do the same amount of work as that chip does in 1 second. And we're deploying these like crazy to meet the need of these generative AI models. So there's a lot of cool hardware, and you can use one of these chips and start building your own custom stuff on top of it. Okay, so that's a bit of an overview of Vertex. There'll be a broader session later. I'm just going to briefly talk on some of the great ways that you can get started as a developer. If you're not as familiar with the cloud environment, Maker Suite is a great way to just dive in and get started. It kind of offers you like that Vertex Studio experience, but like Vertex Studio Lite. So you can go in, you can put in your prompts, you can test it with the same state-of-the-art language models that are in Vertex. You can put in things like test cases and even do a fine-tuning of the model itself. And it's all exportable and exposable into your app via a simple-to-use API. So this is in general availability. I believe there's still a bit of a wait list specifically though for Canada, but I have seen certain accounts that I'm testing out with get in. So I just encourage you to, any of these, sign up on the wait list. We're adding more and more users every day. Another one is MediaPipe, which I think there's another session on later. This is not so much for generative AI, but if you're trying to solve a more kind of classic machine learning problem, so something like object detection or speech detection, sentiment, or doing landmark detection on a body as part of pose detection, it's a really easy library. You can import it into your application. All the models are trained for you. They work pretty well, and you can just start using it right away via a really simple to use API. So if you're looking to get started with ML, get hands-on with it in the language or the code base you're familiar with, this would be a great place to start. Finally, there's a bunch of cool experiments. We're building these production enterprise-grade language models, but then there's a huge amount of research teams doing cool stuff. One of the ones that I found just really interesting was Music LM, which is a text-to-music language model. And it was kind of funny, I saw an early version of this in a paper 6 months ago, and they had some samples, but it was kind of beep, boop, beep, boop. It was machine generated. You could tell it wasn't very good. But the ones in Music LM are actually pretty compelling. You can put in, I'm someone who's gone to some music festivals, and I like electronic music, if you can call that music. Some people would debate that. But in this, you can put in, an electronic music with this kind of bass line, and it'll make something that's pretty decent. And it gets me thinking, 5 years down the road, imagine if you're at a music festival and you've got an AI-generated DJ set, and then you can have everyone in the crowd doing thumbs up or thumbs down if they like it or hate it, and then the AI can see that with a landmark detection model and put that into the generative model and just do music festival by democracy and find the perfect thing that everyone in the crowd is yes, that sounds good. So that's where that's going to be, and it's really cool if you can get on the list and play around with it. It just kind of shows you where this is all going and how we're thinking about it. Some other pieces are Notebook LM. It's a notebook that's designed to help you write better. Search Generative Experience puts an LM on top of Google Search, so finding information better. And then Project IDX, I haven't even been able to see this one, but it's sort of a reimagining of the developer IDE from the ground up with generative AI in mind. So everything you need to develop faster and more effective. That one's in limited release, but is being rolled out more and more throughout the end of the year. So that's the cloud platform, a bit of how you can get started from a developer standpoint. I'm just going to finish off here by talking a bit about Responsible GenAI. I think along with the excitement in GenAI, there's been a lot of fear and a lot of talk in the media about, AI is going to take everyone's jobs, or we're going to kick off superintelligence, or the whole Terminator thing. And obviously, while we don't think that those things are necessarily, going to happen, it is really important with a powerful new technology that we develop this responsibly. That classic quote, with great power comes great responsibility. I think that's Uncle Ben from Spider-Man. Could be misattributed. But anyway, it really matters. And especially as this becomes more ubiquitous and is worked into more applications and interacting with more people, thinking about things like bias or risk and how we roll this out is incredibly important. So at Google, we fundamentally started with our AI principles. We developed these in 2016. We're one of the first big tech companies to do this. Here they are. Be socially responsible, incorporate privacy design principles, be accountable to the people who are making these systems, and don't cause overall harm. These are hugely important, and we bake them into everything we do at Google from a product perspective when we're designing and launching new products. As an example, for any new AI launch, it will go through a process where we identify potential harms, think about the users that could be impacted, the potential bias or discrimination. We assess the risk of that, so what would the impact be, and then come up with a mitigation plan. One example that I can give here is, if anyone has a Pixel phone, you'll know that it has a really good camera. It's using a ton of AI models under the hood, but the early versions of the Pixel camera actually performed much better when taking pictures of people with light skin, who are maybe from California, than people who were around the world with a darker skin tone. And it was just because it was trained by a group of white dudes who were looking at each other and going, wow, this looks awesome. And they never rolled it out to a big, broader team. And so as part of this responsible AI process, they'd look and say, hey, we're systematically biasing against a certain group. Let's make the team more diverse. We'll train the model on a much more diverse data set. And the net result was a model that was much more accurate, much better at representing all skin tones around the entire world. And so these kind of reviews are things we're doing for every product just to analyze these harms. As a developer, we're building a bunch of responsible AI practices into the tooling itself. So as an example, within Vertex, if you're doing a text generation, there's a technical safeguard where it will say, hey, we've looked at the output of your model and looked for things such as toxic content or things talking about violence. And you can tune the sensitivity of that output for your specific use case. So maybe when you're trying it out, you turn the safety filters a bit down. But when you go into production, you want your model to be really controlled. You can turn them up and make sure that it's putting out something that is not going to be harmful. And this is just one tool of many. So to end this section, I would just say, responsible AI is a feature. It's something that you should be thinking about now, because if you make your models less biased or more representative, they will be better models ultimately for the users that you are trying to work with. Like that camera example on the Pixel turned into a feature called Real Tone, and it's actually a selling feature. Like the Pixel has the most accurate representation of all skin tones of any camera. And that was a result of this responsible AI process, ended up really driving that camera and product forward. If you're deploying these, be thinking about responsible AI, because in a couple of years, if you're using this heavily, your users and your customers are going to be asking about it. So it's something to really think about at this moment in time. So just in conclusion, I think we're living in a really exciting moment in human history. I know you'll see a lot of great examples today. I'm super pumped, and you should be too. It's going to be great. So a few sessions I'm really looking forward to is going to be talking about how LLMs can bridge that boundary between humans and computers using those natural language abilities they have. There's also talking about explainable AI, a really important piece that's important for responsible AI. There's going to be a session on Vertex AI to go a bit deeper into some of the things I talked about, and then just exploring that use case I showed of the brown bag. That's one example, but there's tons more, talking a bit about what's possible. And of course, myself and other Google experts will be in that experts lounge to talk about your specific use case or answer any and all questions about generative AI. So just to wrap things up, we're living in a really special moment in history. It's really cool that you're all in this room getting to lead the charge with this technology. I think if we look back in 5 years, this period is going to be viewed as a really wild period where a whole host of new and interesting things was developed, but that future really isn't foretold. Right? We have to build it still, and how we build it is really up to us. So the only thing I just leave off here is let's get building. We've got the tools, we've got the energy, let's go. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Thomas. Or Tom, sorry, I keep calling you Thomas. Yeah, I really appreciate that. That was excellent. Yeah, thank you very much for being here again. So this is the end of the first keynote. We have a keynote coming up in here right now with Battle.io talking on platform engineering. It'll be very exciting. That'll start at 10:45. But now is the time to transition if you're going to go across to the other side and take in one of the other sessions in platform. Or I think there's one downstairs here as well. Just take a look at the schedule on the website. Everything is updated in real time, so if you've made changes in the last 5 minutes, it'll be there. But yeah, now is the time to transition. Thank you again for coming. And yeah, we'll be back here in about 15 minutes on this stage. So thank you very much.